All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Behind the Rise. We interviewed today Angel Bajana. He is the co-founder and CEO of Elev8ation Fitness, who has multiple gyms in Miami. He tells his amazing story of how he grew up in a very low project city in New York, and he made all of his way to get into real estate as a personal trainer, and then ended up somehow an amazing story to be a huge gym owner in Miami, and he's scaling to 6-7 locations. He has 5 locations right now. It's a really amazing episode. Tune in. It's about an hour long. It's definitely worth the watch. Angel, again, thank you so much, brother, for coming on the podcast. Again, we got connected through a lot of mutual friends. You're a killer in the gym space, innovator, pioneer. I think you're doing the gym owners a justice with kind of giving people the blueprint of how to open up a gym, how to what to look for. I mean, I'm even learning stuff. I'm not even a gym owner. And again, we got connected through some great mutual friends and some real credible, awesome, kind people like Wes Watson, Jeremiah, Eric Spofford, all those guys. So again, I just want to thank you so much. I think you do an amazing job with your personal brand in the gyms. And I hope you have 100 gyms by the end of the, in the next 3-4 years. I mean, you're going on an awesome
Hopefully
pace.
by the end of this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But I appreciate the kind words, and every single person that you mentioned on there, they're incredible human beings.
So Angel, again, thank you for taking the time. We know that you're super busy. I just want to make a quick comment before we get into getting into your background stuff. So I actually went down to Miami. I did a workout with Eric and Wes and a couple mutual friends. And when I went there, I noticed this is before we saw anything about you, or I was just going to the gym, and I noticed that the staff that you have there, they're super friendly, super approachable. It's not, you see some people online and you think oh, it might be one of those gyms that it's stuffy and everything, but you can almost tell that they've taken on kind of your personality, the staff and everything that's there, the culture. We'll get into how you've done that and kind of how it's done, but I noticed it from the second I got in, because I was trying to sign up for a day pass or whatever, and they were just super cool about it. There's some places that are
corporate stuffy.
Correct. And and it was just awesome experience from beginning to end. So I just wanted to touch on that before we get into the into your background. But Angel, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of where you grew up? We're going to start back your childhood, kind of how you've gotten to where you are now. But why don't we start by where you grew up, kind of what your childhood was like?
Absolutely. So I think that's the foundation of it all. For many of us, I'm originally from New York City, Washington Heights to be specific. And, I grew up very, humility to see the least, I was fortunate to have mom, dad, but my environment was just a little bit chaotic. But with that said, I think it definitely let me understand how to deal with chaos and moving forward. And, I left New York about 10 years ago where I'm at here, and it's been pretty great. But my background, I couldn't have, obviously it could have been better for all of us, speaking for myself, in regards to, I grew up in the hood. It's the shit that I saw, the things that I saw and I heard, I had to filter out and eventually use it to my advantage as I grew older.
Nice. So was fitness always something that you kind of leaned on, or was that always been something that that's been part of your life?
Absolutely not. Well, in high school, I almost didn't graduate high school because I failed all of my gym classes. I never showed up. I never worked out. Oddly enough, it was just so ironic today. It's my life.
So, okay. So you had a tough upbringing, grew up in the hood, right? And then did you go to college? Kind of what was your after high school situation?
Or even before you get into that, what was your family dynamic like, Angel?
So mom and dad, workaholics, at one point, probably illegal immigrants, became legal back in the 70s, and very hardworking people. They had me pretty late in their age, single kid, only child, but definitely raised under a very disciplined household, extremely disciplined household, where, I couldn't do shit. I couldn't do much. By the way, can I curse here? Can I get a little bit more?
Yeah.
All right.
Free love and rock and roll, baby. Let it roll.
Yeah. So, I grew up in a strict ass household. And hold on, I'm hearing feedback. Hold on one second. There you go. So after the fact, I think that was pretty much what kept me in line when I was in high school. I got expelled from high school for violence, which is weird. When I finally graduated high school, my grades were so poor where I only achieved, was only able to get into community college. And I pursued art and film, and I went into college of Staten Island to be specific. And I told myself I want to get myself into the best city university, which was Hunter at the time, their film program. 2-3 years into it, got into the program, hated it, dropped out of college, and pursued real estate.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you pursued real estate after dropping out.
Yeah, actually, I don't remember the subprime market. 106% financing. So, 21 years old, I took advantage of that, and I was around some very hungry, monstrous people. So by 23, I owned a few real estate properties. I had a property in the Bronx. I had actually all my properties were in the Bronx. And again, I was young, 23, making money and having cash, money in the account, great credit. And then I don't know if you remember 2007, 2008, the market hit, my tenants got hit. I was also young, I was stupid, I was mismanaging my money. I was in Miami, traveling, clubs, bottles, and my life got turned upside down. I moved back to my mom's house probably when I was 26, 27 for like 3 months with overdraft in my account, negative, terrible credit score, short sold my properties. And I got into, prior to that, I got into fitness. I started working out when I was 19, 20, but I decided to pursue personal training and started working for Equinox.
Oh wow! But you always had. It sounds like you had like that entrepreneurial like bug. Like that was kind of like part of your story. Like you're hustling, trying to. I mean, dude, to get into real estate, buying property at 21, 23.
No, not easy.
I understand like the loans were easier to get back then, but just to do that, to take that risk is not.
A little further. When I was 12, 13, my dad was into making filming weddings. That was like his side hustle, shooting. So that's how I got into film and the arts. So I took that information. This was back, the internet, AOL. This was back when everything was analog. And by 15, 16, I understood it. So I directed, produced, and distributed my first skate film. I was a huge skater in New York. So I did my first skate film when I was 16. And by 17, I had my second one distributed pretty much all over the U.S. After that, I remember prom and, senior prom, senior trip. I told my parents, don't buy me that shit. I don't want to go to that. Buy me a camera. Buy me a higher end camera with like this Canon GL1. I had my first Apple computer, and I took that. I obviously went to college, but prior to college, I was already doing the work. I was working on my third film, and just to give you a heads up, like that's just how my mind worked back then. So when I got into real estate, it kind of pursued the same type of quote unquote hustle. And when I was 22, 23 years old, bro, I was already opening up my own brokerage. I got my broker license under a year because of the amount of activity I had in the business. I was young, and I was around 40, 50 years old hungry. And it kind of set the pace for me as far as even where I'm at now, that quote unquote mentality. And now, obviously, I've learned my lessons financially, so I kind of conduct myself a lot better.
So there's a couple things I want to ask. One of the things you mentioned is like you were 20 years old around these 40 and 50 year olds, and that's essentially what we talk about all the time is like this exposure. The early that you get exposed and kind of be around these big killers, these big money makers, it kind of opens your mind to like, whoa, this is possible. Did you have that kind of moment getting into the space with these 40, 50 year olds making all this money?
1,000,000%. When I was 16, 17, I didn't even understand the whole concept of mortgages and even ownership. My parents, they rent. You grew up in the hood, you think, when I grow up, I'm going to take over this rent stabilized apartment. I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life. I'm going to get a job. But when I got into college and then actually when I got into real estate, it definitely opened up my eyes. I got in at the perfect time when there was volume, there was so much interest in real estate, and I just kept on soaking up information. So for me, getting exposed to that and learning the whole ownership, like the whole ownership aspect, I was helping so many people get homes. They got to the point where what I could get a home. I've saved enough money. What I'm doing for these people, let me do it for myself. So then, it just took off, and I started building relationships. The network till today, 20 years later, they're still in my life.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know so many people who like grew up in a lower end like income household, and they don't get exposed to making money or business or even the idea of how money works until like their mid to late 20s or early 30s, and then they're so behind.
Yeah.
You know, we were.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think like what you're exposed to. Like, unless you get outside of that circle
You'll
and
never
start
see it.
start meeting other people and stuff. Like I can tell you, you know, we have some Section 8 properties and some of our tenants in there, and I remember there was one lady who had the thing, and she had the voucher, and she got that voucher from her mother, and then she told me her goal was to pass that on to her daughter, the voucher.
Yeah.
So what that's doing, it's like you're breeding like multiple generations of people who think that they're stuck in this, and they're learning how to work the system and try to, you know, basically, because if they work, then they lose their voucher, they have to pay more in rent. So like the whole system is, you know, it's built to help people, but at the same time, it's built to keep people stuck, or else you lose those benefits, you know? So you're talking that just that conversation was one family, 3 generations of thinking that's like their best case scenario, you know? And they just haven't exposed themselves. I think now with the internet and, you know, people following other people, it's easier to get exposed to people who are doing better than you, and, you know, other, you know, joining kind of like without joining other networking groups and stuff. You can kind of see it just by being on Instagram. But you know, that's definitely, you know, back in the day, you know, 2005, 2006, sounds like we're a similar age, right? Like that was before Instagram, Facebook, all that. So you had to get out there and experience it in real life and get around people in order to have that exposure. You don't have the luxury of scrolling through your phone, you know?
Absolutely. I think another part to that, when I was 19 years old, I hated reading. Like I was a poor reader. I hated.
Me too, man. I got like a 3rd grade reading level. Still.
When I called
It's
you
like
in
my claim to
class,
fame.
like, Angel, go ahead and read this paragraph. I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah, I'd take a piss right at the time they had to read out loud.
But I had a buddy of mine, and he's a little older than me. His parents were entrepreneurs. They owned the bodega. They owned the hardware store. So I was like, oh shit. It kind of opened up my eyes to a certain extent. But he introduced his book, the typical Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was 18 years old when I read it. And that for me opened up my eyes. And I started all I did was read self-help, economics, Wall Street books. I just wanted to learn as much as I could. So when I was in real estate, I started picking up the Millionaire Investor. It was like I forgot. It was like 2 books. It was the blue and the red book. The Millionaire Agent. And I'm not. Don't quote me on that title, but I started just taking all that information in, man. And I'm like, then meeting the people and learning like the principles of networking, reading the King Solomon, their book, his book, whatever, or a part of his story. And it just kind of opened up my eyes, and I realized that this is the route that I need to take, and this is what I want to be around. And at that time, I was very much money hungry. I wanted to make money, make more money. But I realized now today, I'm in a position where the money's going to come. I just keep on doing my thing. I sound cheesy as fuck. I follow my quote unquote passion, which is fitness right now, because I can't say it's going to be tomorrow. And bro, I double down and I get to work, and it works.
Love that.
One of something funny too that's a common denominator. So we've had a bunch of people on this podcast, huge successful people, right? The common denominator.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Well, no, well, yes, but
That book, so many people start with that book.
I know, but not just that, but they're like, what was your grades like in high school? C, D, failed, whatever. It's always that. Like we never talked to anyone who's like, oh, I was an A student.
Right.
Like, what? It's
And
always
not
like,
because they don't want to learn. Like if you listen to what he just said,
right.
when he found something that he was interested in, you start consuming information at a
Right.
crazy level that other people can't even
But
understand.
it's funny when you're in high school, like they judge you on those grades and they kind of pin you into the dumb kid or the, oh no, like, but no, in reality, we didn't have the passion. We didn't have the passion for what we're listening to. I don't have passion for math. I don't have passion for some of the stupid
Right.
sciences
you
I was
can't sit in
learning.
a chair for that long either. You would have to strap me down to a fucking chair right now for 8 hours in a day.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what you just said. When I was in high school, even throughout my whole school career or schooling, I was terrible in all of my subjects, with the exception of math and art. Math, I was in math, AP. I just loved numbers. So I was taking college courses in high school, but then I had a fucking D minus in English.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like me.
Yeah.
I graduated 207. My rank was 273 out of 309.
We're proud of that.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty. That means there was only like 15 kids worse than me in the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into kind of how you went. So then you transitioned into fitness. You became a personal trainer, right? You said at Equinox.
Yeah, 92nd and Broadway in Manhattan. And even back then, like all I did was read Flex magazines and muscular development. So I just knew that I loved working out. I had already been working out for about probably 5 years. And when I went to Equinox, I remember it was Google, but I researched the internet. What was one of the top gyms? Equinox came up at that time. It was like 2007, 8, more or less. And when I walked in there, I probably must have gone there like 3 or 4 times until finally I got the manager's attention. Be like, hey, I'm interested in a job. What can I do? I want to become a trainer. And she really shut me down. She said, listen, we have people with PhDs here. We have people with degrees. What makes you so special? And I said, I don't fucking know yet, but I love this, and give me an opportunity. And I remember she gave me a month to get certified and work, clean the gym, be there 4:30 in the morning, do all the BS work, walk the floor, talk to people, give out towels. And I finally got certified. And all I did was started building relationships. Now I'm in Equinox. I'm around now another higher level of people, but very organic. It's not like I'm looking at their pockets. I'm just around these people. And I remember I started having clients. And I remember one specific client I knew this guy as Steve. Steve, Steve, what the fuck, bro? Like, you're late. What's going on? And next thing you know, I was leaving the gym and like, Angel, can I talk to you for a second? I'm like, what's up? One of my coworkers. He said, you know who your client is? Like, Steve, yeah, this fucking guy's always late. Like, I don't. He goes, this guy is the attorney for the country of Ecuador. He's dealing with Chavez and all these other things. I'm like, he was just on 2020. And then I was like, holy shit. So I started researching him, and I approached him the next day. I'm like, Steve, you're going to tell me to do this shit? He goes, yeah, that's just what the fuck I do. But I realized that these people are just normal, just like you and I. And they're in such high positions and almost, not only running the world, but they're fucking, industry leaders. So it added a level of comfort in having dialogue and finding common space with these people, where not necessarily within the industry, but just as human beings.
And then how do you think, because Equinox is obviously, that it's that higher tier gym, right? Like there's a bunch of different tiers within the gym space. You have like your Planet Fitnesses, you have your Crunch Fitness, and you have your Lifetimes and Equinoxes and everyone in between. What did you learn from Equinox's gym management style? Did you take anything from that, or when you were there, you're like, ooh, wow, this culture is nice? Like, was there anything you took there from?
I want to say a lot of my success today has to do with Equinox because of how structured we were. Although I'm a meathead, I'm a bodybuilder, but my experience in working in this field has been all luxury high-end fitness. So from Equinox, a little later, I went to the Reebok Sports Club over on 67th in Columbus, which eventually got bought out by Equinox. I worked for David Barton, and all these other jobs that I've had afterwards. I'm like, holy shit! I almost intuitively pinpoint, oh, this doesn't look good. This looks kind of weird as far as the way they're operating. In years forward, like one gym, for example, David Barton, I worked for them. They went bankrupt, and not that I knew they were going to go bankrupt, but I knew when I was in there as an employee, I was like, this is fucking ran poorly. I just started, not that I was focusing on these things, but I just knew how I used to operate with this one company. Now I'm working for another company, and I'm like, they need to do this, or maybe they should do this. And I started I would even talk to the manager, but I get fucking blown off like cool story, Angel. We'll think about that one. I'm like, cool, just giving you my 2 cents.
Right. It's the same thing with Angel. Like when you have that itch, that kind of entrepreneurial kind of eye, like we call it the eye for the football, right? Like nose for the football. Like when Angel went to your gym, for example, he picked up on things. He wasn't intentfully like analyzing the gym, but since he kind of has that nose for the football, he noticed those little things similar to how you did. When you go to a gym, you kind of notice like, ooh, that doesn't look good. Ooh, I don't like that process. Like you already had that instinctual nose for the football of like what works and what doesn't.
There was another thing too that it pops into my head is that you were 26, 27 years old at this time, right? When you went into Equinox?
26, I would say, yeah, more or less.
So you had already made a good amount of money prior to that, and you still had the humility to take a lower position.
Yeah.
in order to get into the place that you wanted. I think that's huge.
Yeah, that speaks volumes.
Where a lot of people aren't willing to do that. Nobody wants to take a step backward to take a step forward, but it's just what you have to do.
It's something that I preach to my team, and I don't even want to say staff, they're employees, but to my team, it's like, bro, if I always say elevation right now, it's at a high, it's going to go higher. We're doing amazing things, but tomorrow you'll never know. And tomorrow I may be back at square one and eat shit. I'm still eating shit now, don't get me wrong, but it's like you just never know how life handles you. So I'm always, and I've been back then, I didn't know it. Now more so, I'm like, holy shit. And hopefully I conduct myself a little better. Because even back then, even though I took a step down, I still had many lessons to learn as far as dealing with my ego.
Ooh, that's a big one. I mean, you know what's funny? That I remember because I didn't really grow up in like the 2007, 8, 9 time period when everything crashed. I was in high school. I wasn't in the work world yet. But I remember my dad and Angela used to always tell me like there was like lawyers and CPAs being like barbacks and waiters during that time because how fucked up.
Yeah, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, bagging groceries, working at the. I mean, dude, it was shit hit the fan at that time.
Yeah,
the absolute fan. And we were. I was lucky that I was a couple years behind. Like when I got out of college and like started going into the real world, that's when 2008 happened. So I came out like looking for deals. Like after things crashed. If I had come out 2 years before then,
you would have held
I
the
would
bag.
have got caught. We're holding the bag like everyone else. It's a timing thing. But yeah, so that we learned a lot of lessons in that. It kind of almost haunts me still to this day because I'm like so afraid of making like having that happen again. Like I'm always like, shit, like I wouldn't want to buy this because this could go down. Like I have that.
Oh, it's like PTSD.
Yeah, like that fear factor, which is good in a way, but I think sometimes it stops us from making decisions because I'm like worried about that happening again.
You just reminded me of a little portion of my life. I forgot what year, probably 2007. In a transition where I was getting into personal training, I wanted to climb up some sort of corporate ladder, and I actually got a job with JP Morgan and Chase. The retail banking. They hired me and they paid for my education for 3 months, and I got my 36, my 63, my health and life, and then I finally became a banker. And I got to learn I guess another side of the business, which is retail banking, but also deal with with customer service, people, and I'm mentioning it because I remember you just said 2007, 2008. I remember I was working at the bank when it hit the fan, when the city went to like $1 or something in their stock, and I was sitting behind a table. People were coming to me trying to withdraw their fucking entire account. So I remember that scarcity and that PTSD that lives today.
Yeah, man. I the movie The Big Short. Mm-hmm. I watched that once, and then I can't get myself to watch it again because I get anxiety, like thinking about that shit happening again. It was such a good movie. Like I want to watch it again, but I don't want it to fear me.
Strippers were getting like mortgages, and I have like 4 or 5 houses with no income.
It was crazy. We made out pretty good. We got a couple things at auction and stuff like that from it. But anyway, you got to learn lessons from that time and not let that mistake happen again. Right. Although we don't want to get into like the macroeconomics of today. I don't think that's even close to what's happening right now. Not even close.
It's a different ball game right now.
All right, so let's get into. So you work in personal training. You made you went from Equinox to the Reebok. You said Reebok Fitness or something, and then Equinox bought it. At what point did you realize you wanted to open your own gym? It sounds like the whole time you wanted to open your own gym, just because that's part of your nature. But like, what made you? What made you the leap? Like, let's talk about the leap, kind of how the brand came up, and how the hell you ended up in Miami.
Well, after 5 years of personal training, I got a little fed up with it, and I was fed up. I was doing independent training still in the city. A buddy of mine hit me up with Equinox. Hey, Angel, there's a sales position available, which is selling gym memberships. And I'm like, well, I don't know, bro. I was trying to figure my life out still. And he's telling me that these membership advisors, these sales guys, make 6 figures. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. 6 figures selling memberships, that's almost unheard of. I went, I interviewed, I met the people, I met one of the top producers of the company, and yeah, I took the job. And probably a few months in, I was making good money selling gym memberships. And at that time, I'm doing well. I'm building myself back up, my credit and so forth. A but I always wanted to come to Miami, like officially move here. And I applied for a few jobs online. David Barton Gym decided to take me on, and I moved my entire life in a matter of 2 weeks. It was 2013, end of 2013, beginning of 2014. I'm 10 years here now. And after working here, like probably like a month into Miami, into the gym scene, I realized, not knowing that I wanted to open a gym, but just realized the necessity for a type of organization with structure. That just it was just so different. Miami was just so fucking different in the gym. Like I would walk into one gym was super hardcore. I would walk into the other super high end. There wasn't like a happy medium here. So again, not even considering Elevation, opening up my own gym, I just knew what was missing. And about a year and a half later, who used to be a buddy of mine and from New York, started an online pharmaceutical company here in Miami. Did very well. We had dinner, and I'm trying to make a long story as short as possible, but we had dinner, and he let me know that he's opening up a gym and he would love for me to run it. I took the plunge. I actually went back to work for David Warren. The next day, I fucking quit. Started this new project called Iron Addicts Gym Miami. So if you actually Google Iron Addicts Gym Miami, you probably get a lot of news like reports, DEA bust, the biggest drug bust. And before I get into it, I'm kind of giving you the punchline there, but I started working for this guy. I built one of the sickest gyms in Miami under his with his paycheck, pretty much it, and from scratch. Again, I was just hired to manage the gym, but I realized that I needed to become a fucking, I guess, an owner at the same time, just with I don't know, it was just a surreal moment for me where I built a gym for a drug dealer, and about February 22nd of 2017, it was a huge fucking scandal, drug bust. His fucking business, the gym, they called me from the gym. There's a DAs here. They shut down the gym, and I was left without a job. And a buddy of mine was like, "Listen, you've been building gyms for other people. You've been working in this for so long. Why don't you just take the plunge and do it for yourself?" So he helped me put projections together. He helped me put spreadsheets, Excels. In about a week, I had like 6-7 different investors just, giving me cash to open up my own gym, and I took the plunge.
Let's go.
That's
Let's
a
go.
crazy story.
That's awesome. So you had a crash course in opening your own gym before you had to do it yourself.
Yeah, it was a crazy crash course, not only because of the opening the gym part, the business side of it, but the people side of it. Like this guy, he was a very successful. He basically built one of the largest online steroid business that I don't know to this day. I don't know, but it just obviously got caught up to him. About 3-4 year investigation. And when everything hit the fan for him, it hit the fan for me, the members, the staff, the trainers. We had no gym, and it put me in a position where I had to do something, not for myself, but also for all these people that relied on me. I managed the gym. Whether he was the owner or not, people looked at me for some sort of fucking answer. They were like, "Hey, well, what's going to happen?" I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know. Let me figure something out." And I started calling up different landlords in the area. I got a spot across the street, small little 5,000 square foot little warehouse, and I made it happen. Again, with the most basic of commercial real estate that I knew, and a little bit more of the entrepreneurial, management gym side that I had, I built Elevation, little 5,000 square foot facility back in 2017, not expecting to grow it, not expecting to be where it's at right now. But what the success of this had to do is the way I conducted myself and the network and the people that I attracted. So I kept on learning. I kept on learning different bits from different entrepreneurs. The gym itself attracted these type of individuals, and all I did was ask questions and look at other people in other industries and how they scaled it and how they grew it. So me, when the business started making money, instead of me just buying a fucking nice car, or buying myself a nice watch, I said, fuck it. I paid myself a minimal salary, reinvested back into the gym, bought better equipment. The name of the gym just started growing organically. It became a destination. I had an opportunity to scale it within that warehouse space, take one bait and took the other. And I finally took on a partner, and well, that's another fucking conversation. But I was able to scale this through different partners and different experiences. And today in 21, I took on my current partner, which is his brain or his mind is just failing. And something you said before, when you're around or you're exposed to these different type of individuals that just think so much bigger than you, it obligates you to just think and look at things at a much larger scale.
There's so much to unpack there. I think one of the things that came to mind for me is it's impressive to come from a New York background, input yourself into Miami culture, and then really embrace it, and then and network within that culture, being from someone from the Northeast, because the culture in Miami and the culture in New York and the Northeast is completely different. I mean, to find out what works, to find out what, certain kinks. I mean, people in Miami driving in Lambos is like an Audi. We see a Lambo in New York or something, you're like, whoa. Down there, everything is just everything is just so grand.
Well, how to stick out there is really what I want to get.
Right.
Ask, like, because how do you? There's so many gyms, right? Like fitness is the way of life in Miami, right? Like you have to be good looking, you have to be in good shape, right? And there's so many options for gyms, and it's like everyone that I know that from Miami works out at your gym, right? Like. And they're proud to post there. I remember when I went there, I'm like, shit, I got to get a post in front of the logo here, Like that was like the feeling I had. But like you cultivated that, right, from the ground up. And how did you stick out there? Like what was your how did you attract that type of clientele? And like how did you build this brand?
So one of the key things that you said is that when you went in there, how the staff treated you. And in the second you walk in, it may not be like that 100% of the times, but even though I spread myself out so thin, I'm doing all these different projects. I personally, right now, I'm heavily involved with even my cleaning personnel. I treat them well. I try to pay everyone as best as I can. But at the same time, I hold them accountable, and I get held accountable as well. There's accountability. So even my managers, I don't just let them manage a gym. I'm very transparent with my numbers. So I give them a sense of ownership as well. So the one thing that I taken in my past experience with the people that I worked with is that when I have a good environment, I have good people around me, I work better. And not necessarily that I even care how much I'm making. Like, yes, I care about how much I'm making. But a lot of the times, like I just spent so much time in a gym. So I created a place where not only the team, but the members can hang out, can just be a part of something. Like egos checked at the door. You go to these other gyms, and specifically in Miami, these higher end gyms, I get it. People have money and they get quote unquote treated differently. Here, you got the valet driver, you got the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you got the world leader over here, all talking shit, shooting the shit. We're all, on the same boat. Now, the similarity that we all have is that we all want to better ourselves, whether it's our body, our mental. There's a common ally there, and it kind of to the same sense where my relationship with my guy Steven, my first client from Equinox, and I think that there's a lot of segregation with these other facilities. When you go to these Equinox, these corporate gyms, and then on the opposite token, when you go to these Planet Fitnesses, these lower end gyms, man, you get treated like a number. You get treated like shit. Okay, you also get treated like shit with the higher end gyms. Don't get me wrong, but there's no sense of community.
So true.
This industry, it's so global, but at the same time, it's such a small it's just so small. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like you guys have this this is the meal company, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Utrecht.
Yep.
So the reason how I saw your name and everything came together was one of the members here. I think she's a sponsored athlete, and it all connected. When I saw you, I said, "Oh shit!" And I went up to her, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And I love their meals, and it just all started connecting. Like I said, people from from across the fucking globe, from Dubai, from Cali, from New York, some sort of way, we're all connected. So I'm always like, I never burn my bridges. I treat people fairly. And I do as much as I could for everyone else without sacrificing myself. If that makes any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And a lot of people don't have that mentality where they care more about the experience and the culture and their clients and really creating something that you can have that kind of culture in there. Like you said, like if you go to Lifetime or Equinox or something, like, yeah, they're high end. Yeah, you have like those high end amenities, but there's very little sense of culture within
No,
those.
there's not really a soul. There's two big lessons that you mentioned that I want to touch on, just to, if people missed it. The first thing, in business, again, any great business person has done the same thing. When they first started, they took a very, very minimal salary. Everything that they took, they reinvested. I also want to bring to attention, to do that in Miami is not easy, because it's like you're surrounded to keep up with the Joneses. All your friends are doing this and going out. There's so much access to spend in Miami. So it must have been hard, taking that minimum salary and dumping all the money back into the business to have the faith in yourself and the brand to do that. So I think that is a huge lesson for a lot of people, especially, again, in Miami. It's even more difficult.
It's a lot has to do with the whole little part of success that I had when I was younger with real estate, and kind of lost it all. Because then I would go to the dealerships, buy a car cash. I would go to the clubs, buy the bottles. So I got that out of my system to a certain extent. So don't get me wrong, I like nice things. I'll have a nice house, okay. But when I get so obsessed with work. So when I'm building a gym, every day that I'm there, I'm trying to figure out how can I make this better? Well, I can switch this machine over here. Not only as an owner, but I'm an end user at the same time. I'm just like you going into the gym. I want to feel like if I'm working out, I'm doing a chest workout. Sometimes I'm like, wait a second, this machine fucking feels off. Hold on a second. Let me do some research. And that's the other part of the business that I've cultivated, is that I become very well connected with all these gym equipment brands. So something that I don't really talk about, but pretty much all the equipment that I have in all the gyms, I know the founders, I know the creators, I know the people with the biomechanics behind it. So I'm a geek when it comes to that shit. So with my personal training background, even the way I lay out the gym biomechanically, there's a quote unquote science to it for me. And so it makes my life tough when I travel, when I go to other gyms. And I'm like, God, like I went to a gym in New York recently. I was so upset. I'm like, why would they put this on this floor, put this other machine on this floor? I'm already analyzing the shit out of it. So that, I believe, has a bit to do also with the experience and being different from all the other gyms.
Yeah, there's a huge thing you also touched on too, is every single human being on the planet is searching for community in some facet of their life. They just want to be part of a community, and the gym world is such an amazing place to build that. And I think that you really took that and ran with it, because again, when you go to the gym, it's like, how it feels.
Yeah.
All your buddies at the gym. It's like you said, you put your egos at the door. You could be talking to a lawyer or a desk worker, doesn't matter. And all of a sudden you guys have commonality of, how much you benching today, like commonality of weights and function, commonality of how much you lost this week or something. So it builds such an incredible sense of community. And I think you've done an amazing job with it. It's what it sounds like, and that's hugely important. Yeah.
We mentioned Wes and Eric Swapper. So a little story about them and how I got to know them, because I had no idea. So I meet up with a buddy of mine at the gym, a big influencer, Mike Rashid. I don't know if you ever know of him.
Yeah.
I heard him.
So, we chatted with him once.
So Mike and I were working out early morning. Mike is like, yo, I got some of my friends coming here. You might join us for a back workout. I'm like, what the fuck? Whatever. So Eric and Wes come in. These are his boys. I meet them for the first time. I have no fucking clue who they are. We're just shooting this shit. We're talking, we're working out. And I keep on seeing people approaching Wes and Eric. Hey, man, can I take a picture with you? Hey, man, I have a few questions. And I'm like, so for a moment, we're like in between sets. And I go to Eric, like, yo, who the fuck are you guys? Like, and then he shares with me who, what they've done, the social media. It proves the whole thing that where you don't know who you're talking to in the gym, that sense of community, the sense of camaraderie. And it's like, I'm living it myself. I live it every fucking day. And if I'm doing it, I can only imagine what other people are experiencing. So when they leave the gym, all they do is want to fucking talk about it and post about it. Like, holy shit, I met this person. Oh, and it's such a great feeling.
Absolutely.
That must be an incredible feeling that you've created that space where everybody comes in and they want to be seen there.
Yeah.
That's like the pinnacle, I think, in the gym business, as far as like creating like culture and people who travel to Miami. I know people who go to Miami, and then I'll see them go there and work out for like the time that they're there. It's because they want to be seen there. They want to have a picture of themselves in front of the logo and all that stuff. Him and I were training for a bench competition, and I literally tore my labrum and my rotator cuff training for it.
Yeah, I think that was an excuse. He's a pussy. I don't think he was trying to go head to head. But something else I also want to mention too, because something I also didn't know, and probably a lot of people don't know, is the topic of partnerships. So you mentioned that you may have had a partner before, but now you had a new partner. The new partner you said had a different skill set. Whether it was a different mindset of scaling. That's so important. I've had a bad partner before, and I've also had great partners like my brother. And I feel like it's so important. You can talk about this too. How important it is to find someone who's either better of what you lack at, or just things differently than you to kind of push
Compliment.
you. Yeah, like
Right.
complement each
your
other.
skills, yeah.
So do you mind talking about that a little bit, Angel? Just kind of how that partnership came up.
I have fucked up, for lack of better words, in that department, because when I first started Elevation, I knew very little about partnerships or very little of what to look for. People were just waving dollars in my face. All I was just excited was about just opening the gym. So my first partner in Elevation, another very wealthy guy, I got connected through an ex-girlfriend of mine, which that was another part. I gave her a small equity, a little 10%, which came to bite me in the ass later on. But the one thing that I've learned after two partners, this is where I was like, Angel, don't you see the fucking red flags? After two partners, I finally hired legal. So I actually never had legal representation when it came to signing any kind of contract or agreement. So in 2021, I came to a point where I had a partner, which is my ex-girlfriend, and another partner, which is the investor. They pretty much had a gun to my head, and they removed me from the company. The story is a little bit more complicated, but all I did was try to better the company, but people's ego got involved, and because of the way the contracts or the agreements were drawn up, I had no control of the company. So at that point, not only did I hire legal, I had people come in to help me get me out of this hole, and help me with this situation. And my current partner, he approached me. I remember telling him, "Listen, I don't want to take your money. I'd rather just learn from you." And I was like, "And if I'm going to be a partner with you, I got to date you first, bro. We got to go out to dinner. We got to learn who you are, what you do, and not that your personal life is important, but how you conduct yourself, I realize is very important." So the one thing I've learned with him is that he scaled multiple businesses, and most recently he exited from a business, and I got to meet his team. And his team praised him. They're still with him. And for me, that's so much value, more than the actual what he does and what he's done for his people. So I'm like, holy shit, not only does he want to be a part of this business, he loves the business. He was a member, actually. And he's willing to share his information, bring on his team to help me scale it. So one of the first questions that he asked me was, how many gyms do you see yourself having, owning, running? At that time, I'm like, fuck, man, like maybe 4 or 5, and I had 3. And I felt like spreading myself out pretty thin. And his response was, what about 50, 40, 60 gyms? I'm like, fucking, what the fuck? Like, it just took me by surprise, but I needed that. And then he kind of paused. He said, listen, it is possible, and he mentioned how he scaled his business and the way he has a system set up and how important systems are set up, how important the people in your team. And this was 21. This is 23. That was 3 years ago, and since then I can see it. I didn't really see it then. I definitely see it now. Our business has scaled, and now we're at 5. I would have been at 6 gyms. We're at 5. I sold one that was on a beach. And I have a few more projects in the works. So the partnership is such a blessing, but it could be probably the worst thing in your life as well.
So it sounds like you started looking at their values have to align with yours, right? Because you said how he treated his team and how his team spoke about him was important to you, and that's been something that's been a common theme that you've brought up the entire time about what was important to you too. And that's what we have found. Like whoever your partner is, yes, you have to have opposite skill sets, and that you guys got to push each other, but at the same time, you have to have the same values, because you can scale and you can grow, and you can do it in an unethical way, and you can pay your people like shit, and that, you know, and just to only care about the bottom line. But if you don't align your values with your partner to do it in a way that you're building a strong foundation with a strong culture as you scale, it sounds like that is one of the most important things to look for in a partner, you know, skills and value.
100%.
100%. We actually had a question. I told a couple of friends of mine who own gyms locally. I said, hey, I'm talking to Angel this afternoon. Do you have any questions for me to relay to him? And it kind of goes kind of to this conversation ish. They wanted me to ask you when did you know, because they said you had 3 gyms before you kind of took on this scalable partner, let's just call him. When did you know to go from 1 to 2 locations? Because I feel like a lot of people get stuck on that first, and then once they make the leap to 2, they're like, oh shit, maybe I could do 3, 4, 5.
When I took over an additional 5,000 square feet of that warehouse space. So if you guys been to the downtown location, there are actually 3 bays, totaling about 60,000 square feet. So when I took on the 5,000 square feet, probably about a year and a half in, I probably had maybe a little over 200,000 in the business account, and I felt comfortable going into the space next door for 2 reasons. One, I had the cash, I already had the cash flow, and I already knew I can cover the rent and the expense. So when that opportunity came on, it was a no-brainer to give my members and myself more space to work out, more equipment. When that happened, I didn't know the impact it would have on the neighborhood, and I'm not saying I had a direct impact on this. A gym down the block closed down, another gym closed on as well, and we had probably 200-300 people just join in a matter of like a month and a half after I took on the space. It was just timing as well, and a little bit of luck, I believe. So when that happened, my business just started, the money just started coming in, the cash flow, and then I started attracting even better people. For me, it was an opportunity to better our system, better our equipment, better our team, our staff, and add on more trainers as well. And one small element, which is it has to do with it, and at the same time it doesn't, is that one of my bread and butters of growing this business is personal training. You'll see that a lot of facilities, a lot of corporate gyms, it's just, they have these, personal trainers that as employees, they pay them per session, whether it be 20, 30, 40 bucks a session. And then you have the independent contractors, which usually the gyms take a big cut, usually 50% of it. What I've done, I charge a flat fee, very minimal, and I have trainers that charge $8 per session to $300+ per session, all under the same roof, making money. I don't count their pockets. They make their money. They promote the gym. I got probably one of the top and best trainers in Miami working out of our facility, all full time. So what happened is that now I feel comfortable going into the next neighborhood, going into the next community when there is an opportunity. So I don't just jump into a real estate, but the second location that I got, it was a second generation gym. So there was no build out. I was able to turn it around in probably a month and a half. And I saw that opportunity. Well, actually, the opportunity seeked me. I jumped on it, and not knowing that is also the essence of this business. So when I go into another location, like I just told someone else who wants to open up a gym, their first gym, don't go into a raw space. Take your time. Look for pre-existing gym spaces. Have a good business model. Know the numbers. And I love fitness. I'm a bodybuilder and I'm passionate, but the numbers have to make sense. So I wasn't an expert then, and I'm not saying I'm an expert now, but I understood numbers enough to kind of realize, oh shit, I'm making X amount of money and I can cover the expenses. So for me, it was a no-brainer going into the second space.
Yeah. It definitely helps to know if it's a pre-existing location too, that it could generate sales for, instead of coming up with something from scratch and just hoping that it works.
In an unproven location.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
similar to a restaurant model, right? Like
That's what came to mind. That helped. That was a big deal for us when looking for, it's like, okay, this had proven sales. They've been closed for 2 years, but this location had a good run for a long time. It just was mismanaged, and you can evaluate what happened. Can I fix that? Can I make it better? Of course you can.
Yeah, because we own 3 restaurants too, and sometimes locations, majorly matter. Like the concept could be perfect and everything could be amazing, but doesn't have a lot of parking, or it's just in a weird dead zone where it just doesn't generate the business that it should. In the restaurant industry, it's similar, and I do also believe in gym industry. It's
I
very
think it's similar.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the trainers that you like, do you have like any kind of criteria to allow people to like train? They need to be certified and all that stuff.
Yeah, so they have to have their credentials and they have to be insured. And if they don't, we'll assist them with that. We work with NASM for as far as their certification, and then we have our insurance company that we can always refer them to. But more importantly, I charge $1,000 a month. So that in itself, it filters out the part-timers. It filters out the people that aren't there yet. So for a seasoned trainer with clients, $1,000 ain't shit. I'm like, oh no, I'm bringing my clients and I got all the tools and the space here. Next thing you know, I not only get the trainer, but I get 15, 20 memberships with them as well. And as long as we do our part as a facility to provide a clean facility, a safe facility, they tell me, Angel or the managers, can we get some, accessories, handles? Fuck it, get it. We don't even think twice about it. We make them feel as if it's their gym, and they're the ones buying the elevation shirts. They're the ones, tagging us and promoting us, saying it's their gym. And I think that's for me, that's huge.
Yeah, I love that. So now, like, you have another question?
Yeah, I got a
go
question.
ahead.
So on that same idea, I feel like if I was you, I'd be so overwhelmed because there's so many cities that need this gym. I messaged you. I think I said, like, dude, bring this thing to Boston and we'll throw some money at it. There's so many cities that need this type of gym, and it must be overwhelming. What is the guardrails you're looking for, or what criterias in each cities are you targeting and looking for? Like, why New York over LA, or why San Antonio versus Austin? Like, do you have a system or something in place to kind of pick where you're choosing?
I don't have a system in place yet for that, as far as like a way to look at demographics. You mentioned New York, specifically New York, because I travel there a lot. And whenever I go to New York, I stay in Jersey. Even if I'm doing business or dealing with the city, I stay in Jersey because I want to be near some good gyms. And then even those gyms are okay, and they could be better. So after COVID, post-COVID, all these gyms, all the good gyms in the city, a lot of them, they went to shit, they closed, and they're still closing now. It's kind of a bloodbath right now on the commercial side. So I'm eagerly looking for something in New York, selfishly. So when I go to New York, I know there's a fucking good gym there. And if I'm feeling this way, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are feeling the same way. And the difference with New York and Miami is that you don't necessarily need parking. There's mostly everyone uses public transportation. So that I don't know if that answers the question. So that's specifically with New York. And then South Florida, I understand it a little bit more. So I know the areas that's missing. Like right now, I know I need something in South Miami and in Fort Lauderdale. Those are the two areas that you have gyms. You have plenty of gyms, but even if all the buildings have fucking gyms, but it doesn't have a vibe. It doesn't have a community. It doesn't have the good equipment, the staffing, the customer service behind it, that experience. But I get feedback from a lot of people. Like even when you mentioned Boston, I have a buddy of mine just hit me up. He's an Angel. I want to do something with you in LA. So I always go down the rabbit hole and start Googling and just pulling up, the maps and looking at all the gyms, reading the reviews. And until I actually go there and feel it out, I'm like, but it's very difficult to find these type of facilities. There's probably a little more than a handful in the whole US.
To be honest, I think that model, which essentially is just going with your gut and being your own avatar and end user, that's the safest bet. Like even in the meal prep industry, when we started, we were our own avatars. We created a service for us, and we saw a gap for what we needed. So it's very similar to what you did. You go to New York and you're like, shit, I need a good gym around here, and there isn't a place to go. And I feel like that is its own guardrail. Like that is good enough to make those gut decisions.
I agree.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of people. I can say I'm very fortunate to have the experience that I've had, the trial and error. But there are people that are trying to get into the business, and they also see these opportunities as far as location, but they don't execute.
And then now, just to get into it, are you doing supplements and stuff too? Because the fitness space, there's so many ways to integrate different systems and services and products. Are you getting into supplements and stuff too?
Yeah, so about a couple of years ago, the idea was brought to me through a friend of mine who works in a lab, and we started creating our own formula. And very similar to the gym, where every gym has its purpose, the machine. So I worked on the whole ingredient list for the past 2 years, and I changed a few things here and there. I'm very pro low caffeine and other ingredients. So that was just kind of had that there. I created the whole picture of it. I had a complete different, I had a PDF where you pull it up, a kind of a presentation of the product. So had that, and about sometime middle of last year, I had a buddy, someone came into the office selling me a fat burner to put it on the shelf. Him and I just went back and forth, and he said, Angel, why don't you have your own product? You have, you have the brand, you have the people, you have the athletes, it'll catapult. And I'm like, I know, I just don't have the fucking time. So he said, I pulled up my computer and I showed him what I've done so far, and his fucking eyes lit up. He's like, yo, we need to do this. Let's go into partnership with this and let's do something. Well, today, him and his significant other, they're helping me build this brand. I'm actually, as we speak, looking for someone of a CFO, someone to help me the back end of the business, the finance, the business, Excel and whatnot. But I'm not as proficient, obviously, in the supplement world as I am in the gym world. So that's why I'm trying to align myself with the best people in the industry. But the product is fucking phenomenal. The same experience that you get from going to the gym is the experience that I want you taking this product, understanding the ingredients, how good it is for you, and the synergy between the other supplements. Like, I don't want to just, put on the market, super high caffeinated stimulant that gets you going. Nah, man, there has to be a purpose for this. I don't want to just be like everyone else. Again, our ingredients are a little bit more expensive than others, but I'm also trying to keep the price at a level where it's affordable and kind of, market level.
I feel like that's such a big part of the brand. It's like, I think you mentioned to me, like if you picture if Nike created a hotel, you can already feel what that hotel would look like because you're so familiar with the brand. And I feel like with you, like I can already envision what that supplement looks like just from the brand. And that's when I feel like you have a good, sustainable, like physical brand.
Mm-hmm. And people are going to trust what's in it because they know
that Angel doesn't fuck around.
Yeah, that how you take care of your gyms. They trust what's in the supplement.
So I'll share this with you. I had a meeting the day before yesterday, which was it's still in production. Are a lot, pretty much 80% of our products. And a user of the gym, I want to say even a fan of Elevation, has about 160 online stores, Amazon stores, and the guy is investing because he believes in the brand and believes in what I've done and what we've done. He put a little over $500,000 in products. So and I was excited, but at the same time, I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? Like,
sure, bro.
But it's like, and not that I'm doubting myself, but I also want to get his feedback. And when I heard that from him, I'm like, fuck yes, absolutely. It also, a little bit of an ego booster for me. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, it gives me like a fucking fire. Like, all right, let's fucking take it to the moon. Let's do this.
Right.
Validation.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
a good firecracker under your ass.
Yeah.
That first PO, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so every episode we always ask at the end, like the final question, kind of what is the best piece of advice that either you've heard from somebody else or something that you've learned along the way that you could pass on to somebody else who's kind of on their entrepreneurial journey? Like, what's the best piece of advice that you could pass on to our listeners?
Take your time. I know that everything looks good and we want to see what's at the end of the tunnel, but take your fucking time. Whether it takes a month or 10 years or 20 years, do shit ethically, have integrity, be kind to people, and take your fucking time. And I don't mean just laying back and kind of, obviously I'm talking about I work all day, but don't get so caught up in like it hasn't happened yet, because I just told someone, you just put in the fucking work. You know that you're doing good by people. You know that you're not fucking anyone over. You have all of the, you're gonna attract the right things, and before you know it, it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that advice.
That's great.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get impatient, right?
Yeah, and you start making,
Mis-
quick decisions. That's when you make mistakes,
Exactly. You make a decision for like short-term gratification rather than for
Right.
long-term, and that's
Yeah.
when you start screwing up.
Yeah.
100%.
You've attracted every single good thing that's happened to you. If you go back and listen to this, everything came to you pretty much. You were just being you, and those things just kept coming, and you were picking and choosing the ones you wanted to pursue.
I'll share a quick story. I had a partner, and this individual would always seek, like basically, they were all the angels. It's always about you. What's going on? Like, why is it always about you? I'm like, I don't seek shit, bro. All I do is got my head down and I work, and I don't seek recognition. The recognition eventually seeks you. So I used to tell them, like, yo, just chill, do your job. Don't worry about what people think about you. Just know that you're doing the right thing, and you'll see how you'll attract the right people. You'll attract the right opportunities, and just the right things. And as long as you know what to do with them, things are going to go super well for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Angel, I appreciate you so much, brother. We're going to probably be in Miami in the next 2 months. So when I do, I'll make sure to message you. We'll go get a good workout in. We'll do a back workout or something.
Why back?
Because he has a fucking monster back.
Oh,
You follow
okay.
his Instagram or no? I gotta get my back chiseled.
specific.
We can do legs too. I love legs.
No
No,
legs.
no.
We don't do. We
After
don't do legs.
2 ACL surgeries, I'm done with my legs. I'll do backs and shoulders and
I have a personal trainer, and I have like certain. I'm like no
Burpees.
no squats, no burpees,
Yeah.
nothing where I got to go up in the air, and my heart rate can't get over 150. That's like we joke. It's not really because he makes me do that shit all the time, but we joke about it. I'm like, did you read Section 22B in the contract? There's no jumping.
no
you know?
burpees today. Angel, have an amazing, blessed day. We'll chat soon.
You guys as well. It's been a pleasure.